Hello fellow book readers, my name is John, and today we are going to discuss and tier list all things Dresden Files. So starting in December, I began my Dresden Files journey of reading every single book in the series, and I finished that journey on the first week of February. So today, what better time than ever, while it's still a little bit fresh in my head, than it is to tier rank some Dresden Files books and just talk about the series and each book individually as a whole a little bit, because I didn't individually review any books on this channel. So let's just start with my opinions on this series as a whole. I talked about that a little bit in my monthly recap for January. If you want to check that out, I'll link it down below. So what I think about the series is I think it's very much worth reading. I do understand why it is the gold standard for urban fantasy. It has just really brilliant work by Jim Butcher, the author, in bringing together all these modern and ancient myths, tales, fables, stories, and stuff like that into one. So there's something for everybody here, because each book is episodic, and that means you can read each book individually while they do connect to each other, and there is an overarching storyline. Each book very much does focus on a specific case that is happening in this story. So this is an urban fantasy because our main character is a wizard, Harry Dresden, but he is also a private investigator in Chicago. He works with the police department. So it has that sort of 90s almost-esque police drama feel, like a Law & Order or a CSI type thing going on. But it also has the humor of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So there's a lot of humor there as well. And like I said, he brings in all these modern and ancient myths, there's vampires, and there's fae, and there's werewolves, and there's demons, and there's fallen angels, and there's sort of these things that are basically aliens, and there's things like Bigfoot and Santa Claus, and there's things like that going on in this story, and all of it's very much real in this series. They're not fake. This isn't a Scooby-Doo type thing. So there's something for everybody here, because each book kind of focuses on a specific group almost. So that's why I like to say that I don't think every book in this series is going to hit for everybody, because there's going to be some things that you're just not a fan of. Like me, I don't care about the fallen angels that much. So those books don't generally work for me as well as some of the other books in the series do. That's just the way it is. But I do say there is stuff for everybody. Now, do keep in mind, it is a long series. So, while the books are shorter than some other fantasy series out there, the series itself is very long, and it's unfinished right now. So, I think the plan right now is to go almost 25 books, 22 to 25 books. And right now, book 18 just came out. There's also some short story collections out there, which I am going to talk about in tier rank on this list too. So yes, I do think I understand why it's the gold standard. For me, it is not my favorite urban fantasy ever. It probably wouldn't even... Actually, I know for sure it won't end up in my top 10 series of all time list. But I am super happy I read it. And the highs of the series were really high for me. But there were valleys for sure. Okay, let's talk about my tiers for a little bit. Real quick. Okay, so at the top, we have Perfect. And the Perfect tier is books that I consider 5 stars. There's no flaws. They're among my favorite books of all time. Spoiler alert, none of the Dresden Files books to land in that tier. I'm just including it because I include it in every tier list, but there's not a single Dresden File book that lands in the perfect tier for me. So far, anyway. Next up, we got that near perfect tier. And these are books that are beyond great. They're almost perfect. I'm not going to consider them one of my favorite books of all time, so they're not in the perfect tier for me. There might be one-ish thing wrong with it. These are books that I give 4.5 stars to. And there will be something that lands in that tier here. Next up is the great tier. These are books that have 1 or 2 flaws. They're not perfect. They're not near perfect. But they're still great, and I would reread them any day of the week. I really enjoyed my time there. These are the books I give 4 stars to. Directly below that, we have the very good tier. These are books that are definitely flawed. They have some flaws, some things that I really didn't enjoy about them. But for the most part, I overly enjoyed myself. I would definitely reread these books, and I think they're just very good. And then below that, we have the good tier. These are books where I enjoyed my time in here, but the flaws are almost even with the parts I enjoyed. These are books I'm probably never going to reread, but I do think they're good. I don't think they're... I enjoyed my time there still actively. And these are the books I give 3 stars to. And then under that we have did not enjoy. So these books I didn't actively hate reading, but I did not enjoy myself at all while I was reading them, basically. Like, these books I would have preferably skipped. So yeah, that's just how it is. But I didn't hate my time there. Like, it's not like I was actively like dreading reading the book. I just didn't really like reading the book. So yeah, that would be the 2.5 or the 2-star books. They're in the did not enjoy area. And then below that, we got hated it, where I actively hated my time reading these books here. And guess what? No Dresden Files books lands in that tier. So they're the top tier and the bottom tier. There's no Dresden Files books in that. It's the middle 5 tiers where you're going to see Dresden Files books for me. But anyway, let's get started. So let's just talk about each book individually a little bit and tier rank them as a whole. So the first book is called Stormfront. It is a very short book. It is only like 80-something thousand words. It's like on the longer side of almost being a novella. It's not. It's a full-length novel, but like 20,000 less words, and this could easily be a novella. Like this is very close to novella length. That's what I'm trying to say. Which I think is a positive for this book. Now, most people consider the first 2 books really, really weak. I don't think this is a bad book. I enjoyed my time in Stormfront. So what I think it does well is I think it sets up the world. Like, you get introduced to all these different characters. You get introduced to like a vampire. You get introduced to Karen Murphy. You get introduced to Susan. You get introduced to Marcone. There's just a lot of people you're introduced to, and you don't spend too much time with any of the other characters besides Harry, because the entire series is in Harry's point of view. It's first-person point of view, but you do get introduced to them all, and I think that it does a good job of doing that. And I think the humor in this is top-notch. He just throws on a lot of jokes. They don't all land, but a good chunk of them land. I think the first book is very humorous, and this first book is very much just a like Law and Order episode. You're just trying to figure out this double murder and this case, and you do at the end. It has a very, very good climax. It's not going to blow you away, the first book, by any stretch, but I do think it is a good book, but not like a great book. Not even a very good book. It's just good, on the lower end of good. It doesn't peak very high, but there's nothing really offensive in this book. Now, I will say, Jim Butcher writes with the male gaze, and it's very, very overdone, in my opinion. Like, especially early on in the series. It gets a little toned down later, but it's still there. But early on in the series, everybody is just getting pointed out with the male gaze. Like, it's just, everybody's beautiful. He talks about the woman's breasts all the time. It's just, every other page almost has, like, something that would be considered the male gaze in this book. So do keep that in mind. I also think early on in the series, he is just really bad at writing the woman characters, specifically Murphy, who he's just really, really terrible at writing. Like, she is such a bad character. So do keep those 2 things in mind. But other than that, I do think this book is pretty inoffensive, sets up the world in a nice way, has some really good humor, and has a very nice climax. So yeah, for me this book is good, and it's going to go into the good ranking. Okay, let's go on to the book that I think the fandom as a whole generally considers the weakest book in the series, and that is Full Moon. It is book number 2. And for me, this was a pretty big improvement on book 1. Now, I am a fan of werewolf lore, and this book was all about werewolves and skin changers, and I loved the world building Jim did in this book. This is perhaps my favorite world building that he's done in the series. Debatably, I really do enjoy the face stuff, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, I just really like the werewolf stuff here, so I was a big fan of that. And this is also the book that is most like a mob movie. So I would say a lot of these books are just like Law and Order, CSI mixed with some form of fantasy. Here, we got the detective work, but we also got like a mob movie. It's almost like we're in The Godfather. Marcone is a big player in this book, and he is sort of like the head of the organized crime in Chicago, which is where this series takes place. So yeah, he's in this book, and there's werewolves in this book, and all sorts of unique werewolf building, but also like borrowed from old werewolf legends. So, you know, you got like a unique twist on some new stuff with werewolves, but you got some old stuff making a reappearance in there. I thought they did a good job balancing that and making it work. with like the wizard lore that he's also building. I absolutely love the climax here. The climax here was top notch, and I thought Susan was like a really, really standout character in this book. I was a big fan of her work here. She is early on my favorite or second favorite character, and we'll get to my favorite character in the next book. But yeah, she's just an awesome character, and I really, really enjoyed this book. To me, this book is better than good. It's very good, and that's going to upset some people, I think, because this book is not well liked. But I really enjoyed Full Moon. But let's talk about a book that really takes it up another level, and that would be the third book in the series, Grave Peril. Grave Peril is just such a great book. Like, the series really starts here, like the overarching plot, and I think it's introduced such a badass way. You get the Red Court Vampire War starting at the end of this book. The climax here is insanely, insanely good. And this book has my two favorite side characters early on in the series, and that is Michael, who is my favorite character in the series as a whole, and Susan, who is my favorite early character. I think she gets trumped by some of the characters we get introduced to later, but she's still like one of my favorites in the series. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I don't care. I really, really enjoyed Susan, and I think it's like the first like female character that Jim actually wrote pretty good. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this book because those are the two main side characters. The side characters sort of change every book. Like the major side characters, like you'll have like two characters in this book, like two characters in another book who are like majorly important that are side characters, and then the next book it'll swap two different characters. So in this book it's Michael and Susan, and I love their pairing. I think it's that they're like very, very, very good side characters, and they help carry this book a lot. So yeah, that is my opinion on Grave Peril, and I love the vampire lore we get in this book because we learn about the Red Court here, but we also learn a little bit about the Black Court vampires and the White Court vampires, and I think he has some like very unique vampire world building where he builds off like old myths, but he doesn't like the Black Court's very much like the Dracula vampires, but then the White Court, they're more like, I don't know, Anne Rice vampires in a little bit of the sense. So yeah, the vampires are very different for each court, and I really like how he was able to do that and build off old myths while also creating his own. This book's great, and it's a 4-star category. I'm not going to give it 4.5 star just because I don't think it peaks as high as a 4.5 star book does, but for me, this book is great with very little flaws in it. Also, Murphy, I don't remember if she's even in this book, but if she is, she's not in this book that much, and Murphy was absolutely insufferable in Full Moon. I forgot to mention that. Murphy is at her worst in Full Moon. She's a terrible character in Full Moon. If she wasn't in Full Moon would be in great. But because of her, it's in very good. And then we go to Summer Night. And we were teased with the Fae throughout the first 3 books. But the 4th book focuses on the Fae. We learn about the Winter Court and the Summer Court. And the Summer Lady is trying to basically not end the world, but like almost take over the world in this book because she thinks she has to, but she doesn't. What she would end up doing would like destroy society as a whole if she was able to succeed. And Harry has to solve the case and figure out what's happening, why she's doing this. And we have a great climax. We get to meet like almost all the major players in the Fae world. We get to meet Mab, who is the Winter Queen. We get to meet Maeve, who is the Winter Lady. We get to meet Mother and Summer Winter. Yeah, it's just really, really good stuff here. The climax here is great. I don't think this book is necessarily near perfect because we do definitely lose some of the very great side characters that we had in the last book. Like Michael and Susan are not in this book. And actually what happens to Susan at the end of Grave Peril is like pretty tragic, and I didn't really talk about that, but yeah, it's another reason why that book's great. The stakes that are set up in that book are perfect. But yeah, this book to me is just very good. It's not going to hit the great tier, but it is very good. And it would be great with a better supporting cast, but the supporting cast just isn't up to snuff in this book. But I really, really love the Fae stuff. To me, the Fae stuff is Jim Butcher at his best. I enjoy the Fae books. You're going to see that more than I enjoyed the other books in the series. So yeah, this book is very good for me, and it's going to be at the top of very good for right now. Also, if you were expecting more on the vampire war that started the previous book, you just don't get it in this book, and that was another thing that disappointed me. I understand these books are episodic, so sometimes you're not going to see the overall plot advance very much in the foreground, but I really thought it would in this book, and it just didn't. But I can't knock the book too much for that, because what we got was very good. Also, I really enjoyed what he did with Mab and Maeve. They're like, two big names in like the Fey world, just like going back to ancient like folklore, especially like Irish and English folklore. And he had a pretty unique twist on them, and I really like their characters. So, yeah, he did a good job with that. Okay, next up is the 5th book in the series. That would be Death Masks. I did not enjoy this book. I gave this book 2 stars. It is actually my least favorite Dresden Files book. Yeah, I just did not enjoy the case in this book. I thought the Shroud mystery was just lame. Didn't enjoy it at all. Like, literally at all. And I did not like the antagonist. So the antagonist in this book is a fallen angel, Nicodemus. I think he's the worst antagonist in the series. He's up and down and up. Some books I like with him, but this book I actively did not enjoy. It was the closest I came to hating a book. I didn't hate it, but I did think the humor in this book was the least amount of any book in the series, and that includes like heavy books like Changes. So that bothered me quite a bit. And like I said, I just didn't enjoy Nicodemus, didn't enjoy the Shroud mystery. So yeah, there wasn't much to love about this book. What really kept it and saved it from me like DNFing it and possibly just not continuing the series was this book had Michael and Susan as the main 2 side characters. And Michael and Susan were my favorite 2 characters up to this point. I loved that about it. This book, that was the only thing that kept me going from this book, is the character work. Michael and Susan, top-notch characters. Really, really enjoyed them here. So yeah, they saved this book and possibly the series from being DNF'd. Unfortunately, this is the last we see of Susan for quite some time, as she realizes that she has to go away for a while because she is slowly succumbing to her urges of the Red Court vampires because she had been bitten by a vampire. So that was a sad way for this book to end. But yeah, I didn't enjoy this book. That's all I really got to say about it. Okay, next up is Blood Rites. This is the 6th book in the series. This book is a big mixed bag for me. So what I'm going to say about this book is I really enjoyed the light vampire court lore that we learned in this book. I thought that was top-notch world building. I loved the climax. I loved what it set up with Lara and Thomas. I thought that really, really, really worked. I loved that Harry Dresden's mother was finally revealed in this book because it had been building for books now. Like, we've been getting hints at it. And I love that Jim decided not to drag it out any farther. And he revealed it here. That was like a really, really, really rock-solid decision. But the book suffered for me in a lot of other ways. So the main 2 side character pairings in this book is Thomas and Murphy. Murphy continues to remain insufferable in this book. Don't worry, she does get a lot better later on. And Thomas just fell flat for me here in a lot of different ways, but he becomes one of my favorite characters later on in the series. He gets a lot better. This book, he's just an character for me in this book. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the humor. It just wasn't very good, and I loved the humor in the first 4 books, but books 5 and 6, the humor suffers a bit for me in those 2 books. And then problem number 3, and this is the big problem, is the pacing. I just think this book is not paced very well. The front half is not nearly as good as the back half, and that's the case for a lot of the books in the series, but here it's very noticeable. And I do think the book suffered from the fact that Harry spent a lot of the book investigating a porn company, and it's just like, why? Like, this is lame. This is not what I want to read. Yeah, I didn't enjoy that at all about this book. So yeah, for me, this book had stuff I enjoyed about it a lot, but then other stuff I didn't enjoy about it. And that's like the definition of like just a good book for me, because I do think the stuff I enjoyed like slightly outweighed the stuff I didn't enjoy, but it wasn't much better than just good. So I'm going to put it in the good tier. I just noticed there's two Blood Rites here. That is not what I meant to happen. Give me a second. There we go. Stormfront is now fixed. As you can see, I accidentally had Blood Rites there. I accidentally uploaded 2 Blood Rites to this, not Stormfront, but I fixed it. Okay, next up is book 7, and that is Deadbeat. This is actually the first book that was released in hardcover for the series. This book is, I would say it's very good. So I do have some problems with this book, and I'll talk about them real fast. I just think the pacing is way off. Once again, just like Blood Rites. The first half of this book is a bit weird. And this is the first book in the series that really has a major jump in word count. So this book is like 20,000 words larger than like his next highest largest book up to this point. So it has a big jump in word count, and I just don't think Jim at this point had figured out how to write a larger book like that. So I do think the book suffers from that. It's also, again, the first hardcover book, so he knew more people were going to buy it, so he was reintroducing a lot of stuff in this book in the first half, and that slowed things down. He also introduced a character for that. Not introduced, I think this character might have been introduced before this, I actually don't remember. His name's Butters. Butters is just a Big Mac character for me. I don't really care about Butters. Even later on in the series, I still don't really care about Butters that much. So yeah, this book definitely had some things I didn't enjoy about it, but I really enjoyed a lot about this book in the second half. I thought the necromancers were pretty cool. They're not my favorite antagonists by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought they worked here. I thought the climax was spot on perfect. Like, if he was writing a climax to make sure people keep reading the next book, this one really worked like that. It was just awesome. When Harry was on top of the dragon that he brought to life, who was called Sue, that was hilarious. Really, really good stuff there. While I didn't enjoy Nicodemus, and like I said, I don't love the fallen angel aspect of it, I did enjoy Lassiel in this book. Nicknamed Lash, she exists in Harry's head because he touched one of the coins. She's an awesome fallen angel. I think she's way more interesting than Nicodemus. And yeah, I just really enjoyed her character here a lot. Her and Harry's back and forths were really good. Harry has a scene with Mab in this book that up to this point in the series was arguably my favorite scene in the series. Just so strong. Yeah, I think Murphy starts to improve in this book as a character. Yeah, this book just had a lot of really strong strengths to it. So yeah, it's going into very good for me, and I'm going to put it ahead of Full Moon, but it's definitely still behind Summer Night. Okay, next up is book number 8 is Proven Guilty. I love this book. So let's talk about my problems with this book and why I can't give it 4.5 stars or 5 stars. So this book's about Molly, who is Michael Carpenter's daughter, and there's just the male gaze on her in this book is just really awkward and weird, and it made me feel very uncomfortable reading it because she's younger, and the fact that Jim put her in scenes where like she wants to sleep with Harry and where Harry's like looking at her is very uncomfortable, and I did not enjoy that at this book at all. It kind of almost reminded me of from Wheel of Time in A Crown of Swords, where you had that like sexual assault scene with Matt and Tylan. It kind of reminded me of that, not as blatant or overt or offensive as that scene, but it was in the same vein, and I really hated that about this book. So that book, that just knocked it down a full like star for me. But other than that, I really loved this book. This book starts with like a White Council execution for warlocking, which is the use of black magic by a kid who didn't even know like that it was illegal or that anything was going on. And the White Council is this group of wizards. And then the book ends with Molly Carpenter, Michael's daughter, getting tried for the same sort of crime. And you could see it coming from a mile away. But I really loved it. Like, it still worked. This is the book that hit the nail on the head in terms of theming the best, because that was the theme of this book, and it just really worked. I applaud Jim for that writing. That was really great. Of course, Molly at the end of this book becomes Harry's apprentice because he vouches for her and takes her under his wing after making sure she doesn't get executed. You get more of the Fae in this book with Maeve and the summer lady and Summer Night all appear in this book, and that scene is really great. I really love that scene. Like I said, I love all the Fae stuff, so that's going to be up there for me. You get to meet Michael's family in this book, and it really rounds him out in a great way as a character. Michael's my favorite character, so yeah, just really loved that about this book as well. I love the case of this book. I love the humor in this book. I love that we get into the White Council politics in this book. This book is the most politic heavy of the books up to this point so far, and I think that really worked out here well. Just really, you get introduced to some wizards in this book that you haven't met yet, and I think all those characters are very interesting. Murphy continues to get better in this book. I'm at the point in this book where I actually kind of like her as a character. You get a lot of Mouse in this book, who is Harry's dog, who I think he adopted last book, if I remember correctly. Awesome character, one of my favorites, for sure. The Lassiel Harry conversations in his head keep going on in this book, and she's just such a good character. Yeah, really, really enjoyed this book front to back. It had some, like, great moments for setting up the overarching plot, too. And let's just talk about Molly as a character. Molly's character is awesome. Just such a great character. And, yeah. This book is going in the great tier, and it's above Grave Peril for me. And White Knight is good except for the case. Now, that sounds weird, but I just did not like the case. Of course, we were going to get a serial killer case at some point in the series. This is like a crime urban fantasy, so yeah, we're going to get a serial killer book. Fortunately, I think the plot fell flat in terms of the case here, because like they want you to believe that Thomas is the killer, Harry's brother, the Wakewood vampire, and it's like, you know from the beginning that he's not the killer. Like, I never once thought that he was the killer, and I don't know that you're necessarily supposed to buy that he's the killer, because Harry never believes he's the killer. But when people just keep asking about it over and over again, it's like, well, obviously he's not the killer. Like, he's not the killer. Obviously he's not the killer. It bothered me. I did not like that. I just thought the case in this book was weak. It was weak, and I think it had potential to be great, and it just wasn't. So, for me, that knocks the book down significantly. But I still think it's a very good book, because some of the other stuff we get in this book is very good. Like, the Molly-Harry mentorship that is going on in this book is very good, and it's bumpy and it's rough, and I knew it was going to be rough because Harry is not really a mentor type character. The mentor archetype of a character is my favorite archetype for a character, and I don't think Harry really fits that role at all. Now, he does grow into it, but like early on I knew it was going to be rough, and it was rough in this book, but rough in a good way. Like, it was intentionally rough. And Molly continued to grow as a character. Murphy, still a solid character in this book. You get basically the end of Lassiel or Lash in this book, and, oh man, it was such an emotional ending. Like, you're not supposed to really feel bad for her because she's evil, but she's not really evil. Her shadow's not really evil. Like, Harry's able to convince her not to be evil, basically. Like, it's such a good end for her. I really enjoyed their conversations. I really liked that part a lot. I thought the climax of this book was excellent. And you get Elaine in this book, and Elaine is connected to Harry's past from before the series started. He basically kind of grew up with Elaine, and you don't get a lot of her in the series, but when she shows up, she's usually somewhat interesting. She's not my favorite character by any stretch, but I enjoyed her in this book quite a bit. This book is going in the very good for me, but it's going to be in the bottom of the very good range. It's borderline just good because, like I said, the case for me fell flat, and that is the main crux of the book. So, but I really enjoyed the stuff around the case, if that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about Small Favor. A lot of people call books 10 through 12 like the best stretch of the series. I tend to agree. Small Favor is my favorite book in the series up to this point. I'm going to put it ahead of Proven Guilty. What I really loved about Small Favors is it had its own focus, its own plot, but it also had a ton of overarching plot in it for like the rest of the series as a whole, and it did so without sacrificing the main plot of its own book. And it sort of walked that balancing act in a really good way, better than any other book in the series, in my opinion. So yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed that. This book also redeemed a Nicodemus for me, who, if you remember from Death Masks, I hated as a character. In this book, he was the antagonist of this book. He was much, 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 much improved. I loved the climax of this book on the island. This book had some moments that made me cry out in despair, like when Michael got shot, like when Ivy, the Archive, got kidnapped. The Archive makes a return in this book. I don't think I talked about her yet, but she's just like this kid who is like basically the knowledge of the world. That's basically like, she's just basically like a knowledge base where people store their information. Yeah, she's magical. Really good character, really great character. The stakes were raised with her being kidnapped by Nicodemus. Just some really great scenes. The mentorship with Molly continued here in quite a good way. What I will say is it didn't peak as high as like a near perfect or perfect book, but I hated nothing about this book. You get introduced to Uriel here, who is like the Archangel, one of the Archangels at the end of the book, and I thought that was really clever. Like, he leaves 2 towers for Harry. Very funny. Very good stuff. Yeah, there's just nothing negative about this book for me. I really, really loved this book. And so much more Fallen Angel lore is talked about here that I think really works. I mean, and you had the Black Council mystery coming together in this book a little bit more, and I love that mystery. It hasn't been resolved yet. I don't know that it's going to be resolved anytime soon in the series, but yeah, it was very fascinating. I loved the implications of that. You got Mab playing her own games in the summer court, hunting Harry at the same time, which was very interesting. You know, I like to face stuff, so love that about this book. There's just a lot here to like. There's almost something for everybody. If you like a specific thing in this series, it almost touches all the bases. So yeah, the Wardens and the White Council come into play. Yeah, just some really good stuff. Really great book. But then we go to Turncoat, and this is the book where Morgan, who is the warden who was responsible basically for hunting Harry for most of his life, takes a big turn in here, and we get White Court politics galore in this book, and I love that. The Black Court mystery goes even farther in this book. We get a skin changer with some like Native American mythology, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, there's just a lot to like about this book. A really good climax. Molly continued to improve as a character here, like a lot, like just in terms of, not a character, but like in terms of her like strength. So you can tell the mentorship is like really playing off. Like she was actually useful here in like the fight almost. Like it was just very good stuff here. Demon Reach Island becomes a thing in this book, and I actually like that. Like it's almost its own character, but it's definitely like its own setting too at the same time, and it has like a major impact on the overarching plot. Really thought it shined here. So yeah, there's a lot to love about this book. I think it's the most politic heavy of the series. It's almost a Song of Ice and Fire-ish in a way, especially up to this point. Yeah, just really, really enjoy this book. But I am going to put it behind both Small Favor and Proven Guilty. I do think those books are just slightly better, but it's above Grave Peril. It's a great book. I had a great time with it. I do think that Morgan's death felt a little cheap almost, though. Like I don't think it was bad that he died, but I think I was supposed to feel sad about it, and I really didn't. Like Morgan was kind of a jerk the entire series. So I don't feel bad for him at all. And that brings us into the fan favorite of the series, and that would be Changes. I think most people consider this the best book in the series. I don't, but I still think it's great. Like a great book. Not good, not very good. It's great. It's just going to be at the bottom of Grave for me, behind Grave Peril. I think the tone of this book hurt it quite a bit, because this book is very dark and almost depressing in a way, and that's just not the Dresden Files up to this point. So up to this point, you know, if the book has like humor in it, and while this book does have some humor in it, it like intentionally doesn't have as much humor as the rest of the series, and it very much, I think, hurts it just in general compared to the rest of the books, just because it feels tonally very different. And I don't love that about this book. That's really the only negative here. This book has the return of Susan. I had been waiting for Susan to come back. She comes back in this book. It's a short stay. She does die at the end of this book. But this book has one of the best like opening paragraphs of all time, where like it's revealed that Susan and Harry had a daughter together, and she's been kidnapped. Susan reveals that to Harry, and Harry goes on like a rampage to get his daughter back, and it is so good. There's a lot of trials and tribulations in his way. I love how Murphy stands by him. I love how the Wardens stand by him. I love the Grey Council comes into play here, who are like the wizards that are trying to figure out the Black Council mystery. I love the big climax at the end, the fights with the Red Court. And it went beyond where I thought it was going to go, where he just eliminates the entirety of the Red Court by killing Susan to cause this curse that kills the entire Red Court. Just really, really, really tragic stuff here. And then this book ends kind of on a whimper with, like, I think just like a cliffhanger that doesn't work on so many levels. This book is a single point of view book series. And this book ends with Harry Dresden dying. And it's like, well, obviously he's not going to stay dead. Like, he can't stay dead. This is only book 12 of a 25 book series. So, and he's the only point of view character. So what are we doing? I don't think the cliffhanger had the impact that it was meant to have, especially if you're reading it for the first time in 2025. Now, if you read it for the first time when this book came out, you're still going to know he's going to come back to life, but at least you can have fun theorizing how it's going to happen. Here, it's like I can just pick up the next book and read how it's going to happen. I don't have to wait. So I missed out on the theorizing. I think that hurt this book in a little bit different ways. But like I said, this is probably the best climax in the series. The climax here just rules. It's very tense with very wide implications for not just the present day of the Dresden Files, but the future of the Dresden Files. Because he wipes out the entire Red Court, and now there's a power vacuum. Who's going to take up that mantle? Will they be worse than the Red Court? Harry's dead. What's going to happen now? What does that mean for the rest of the characters in the series? He hasn't finished training Molly yet. Molly goes through some severe trauma at the end of this book. What's going to happen with that? You get Mouse talking in this book, which is hilarious. Harry's godmother comes to help him in this book. Really good stuff here. The Wardens, Lucio and Harry together, was really awesome in this book. Yeah, there's just a lot here to love about this series book. And like I said, Susan makes her grand return in this book, and I love Susan as a character early on. And she went out in such a great way here. Yeah, I love this book, but for me, it's behind all the other 4-star books I've listed so far. Okay, then after that, we got Ghost Story. Ghost Story for me, yeah, I just didn't like this book. I liked it more than Death Masks, so congrats for that. But yeah, this book is weird. Harry can't really do anything in the physical world because he's a shade here. He's basically a ghost, and he's trying to find out who his killer is so he can come back to life, basically. Well, not come back to life, like solve an injustice and then either go on peacefully or whatnot. I forgot to mention, in changes, in order to rescue his daughter, he became the Winter Knight for Mab, who Mab had been trying to convince him to become the Winter Knight the entire series. So that was like a traumatic decision that was going to affect the future. So do keep that in mind. That was an awesome decision, awesome scene by him and Mab together in that book. So yeah, there's just a lot here that I didn't enjoy. Like, this book has a lot of world building about the Shades, which are basically like ghosts. But like, we know Harry's not going to stay dead, so why are we world building this so much? And I really didn't enjoy that. I enjoyed Molly's character in this book a lot. Like, the suffering that Molly is going through in terms of grief is presented in like a really great way. I think Murphy's suffering too. It's a different kind of suffering. She's drawing strength from it, where Molly is not really drawing strength from it. I think that's really interesting. But the plot of this book is just a big letdown. This book is the longest book in the series up to this point. It's like 20,000 words longer than like the next longest book or something like that. And it didn't need to be. This should have been one of the shortest books in the series. And for some reason, it's one of the longest. It's the second longest book in the series. The pacing of this book is just terrible. So yeah, I didn't enjoy a lot about this book other than like the implications it set up for the rest of the series. And I really enjoyed finding out how and why Harry died. I thought that was very cleverly done, and I really enjoyed the reasoning for why he's still alive. Like, that was done well too. Okay, and now we're getting to my favorite book in the series, and the only book I put in the near perfect tier, and that would be Cold Days. I did say I was a fan of the Fae mythology in this series. Well, now you know why. I love this book. This book is so great. You get so much Fae world building in this book. Mab, tons of Mab in this book. Tons of Maeve. Tons of the Summer Lady. Molly is big in this book, and Molly's my second favorite character after Michael. Just so good. This book has it all, and I really enjoyed this book front to back. I thought the climax genuinely shocked me, but it was also very good. But yeah, the climax where Maeve kills the Summer Lady, but then Mab kills her, and Molly becomes the new Winter Lady, is insane. Like, it was so good. It was just, like, so perfect. And you left wondering what the hell is going to happen to Molly now that she's the Winter Lady. So now Mab has both Molly and Michael at the end of this book. And it's crazy. Like, the implications set up for the rest of the series are crazy. But it's so good. And you find out that Demon Reach is, like, this prison for these ancient beings in this book. And Harry is now the warden of Demon Reach because he accepted the warden responsibility. And you find out that there's like these ancient beings called the Outsiders, who are essentially like aliens who are trying to take over this dimension, and that is like Mab's job. That is the Winter Court's job, to stop the Outsiders from coming in, and the Summer Court, is supposed to stop the Winter Court from like taking over the mortal realm. So that's kind of, you find out like more about the courts here. It's very interesting stuff. I didn't say that perfectly, I know, but it's something like that. And yeah, I just really enjoyed that storyline. I think it was so freaking good, man. And the one knock I will give it, that the reason it's not perfect, is it almost has like a double climax, and I think like the first part wasn't as good. Like, I think we could have got to the Maeve stuff a little bit earlier than we got to it. Like, first Harry is like fighting like off the island, and it's like, this wasn't needed. Why did we need to do this? We could have just did the Maeve stuff. But that's besides the point. It still wasn't terrible. It was still pretty good. Oh, Kris Kringle gets introduced in this book. So yeah, we find out Santa Claus is a fairy. so hilarious. So good. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. Near perfect for me. Okay, then we're going into Skin Game. Yeah, this book had Michael in it. I'll give it that. And it had Hades. So in terms of that, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed those two parts. I enjoyed some other like moments in this book, but for the most part, this book was pretty forgettable for me. And Nicodemus was back to just being a blah villain that I did not want to read. I liked the core concept of, they have to break into the underworld to steal the Holy Grail. I liked that concept. I just didn't enjoy the heist itself. So this is a heist story. It's the first heist story in the series. And I've read some really good heists. I read Mistborn. I've read Six of Crows. I've read a couple others that I've really enjoyed. And to me, the heist here just kind of fell flat. It wasn't very good. So that's a problem. I think the climax after the heist was pretty good stuff. So I did enjoy that. But before that, it was just Like I said, Nicodemus didn't really work for me. There's some Butter stuff in this book, and I just don't care about Butters. But his lore with the Swords of Faith was pretty cool. And I like how it's basically a lightsaber. Yeah. So there was some moments in this book that I really liked. And like I said, Michael was back in this book. I think Michael's like an excellent top-tier character. So I really enjoyed that. I was looking for more Faith stuff in this book. We really didn't get too much Faith stuff in this book. We got a little bit, but not as much as I wanted. So yeah, this book is just, it's going to go above Ghost Story, but it's going to be in the did not enjoy tier for me, personally. And then that brings us to Peace Talks. And Peace Talks, for me, it's going to go in the good tier, and I'm going to put it at the top of the good tier. I just wish that it had a little bit more. It felt like half a book, and come to find out, that's exactly what it was, because Distant Battleground was supposed to be one book. I didn't know that when I was reading it, though, and I was like, why does this book feel a little bit like it's missing something? And that's why, because it's half a book. We don't really get a climax. So we sort of get a climax with Harry versus grandfather Ebenezer, and that's good, but I felt like it should have been more than that, because early on in the book we get introduced to this Titan who's threatening Chicago, and it's like, okay, well, we're going to get to that in this book. It's like, no, we don't get to that. It ends with us setting up for that, and it's like, why? What is happening? And this book does have some politics in it, but it doesn't have the depth of politics that some of the earlier books has. And that really made it fall a little bit flat for me. I did love that we got some of all the like mystical characters coming together. Like we had a Bigfoot in this book. We had both Mab and Molly in this book. We had werewolves in this book. We had vampires in this book. Lara plays a big role with the White Court here. So we have all these mystical groups coming together to discuss like peace, and the White Council to discuss how are we going to have a treaty of peace. And then it gets interrupted by the Formar and the Titan. And yeah, great setup. It's a great setup book. But in terms of a standalone book, I think it falls a little bit flat. And but not too flat, because I really did enjoy my time here. And I did think the Harry with his grandfather stuff was very good, especially the reveal about Thomas being his brother. And obviously they're trying to save Thomas in this book, and his grandfather doesn't want to save Thomas because Thomas is a vampire. Yeah, just some really, really good stuff in this book, but it also just felt incomplete. So for me, it's going to go at the top of good, but that's the best I can give it. I did enjoy it. It's probably not a book I'll ever reread, though. And then we got... Now, here's the thing about me as a reader. I don't love a lot of action. And this book is mostly just action scenes. It's like action scene. It's like, can we just let it breathe a little bit, get some character building? So I'm more of a character reader. And the stuff that we do get here with the character building is very, very, very good. And don't get me wrong, the action scenes I enjoyed. There were just too many of them. So that kept it out of the great tier for me. I also feel like this character, spoiler alert, Murphy dies in this book. And her and Harry were just like becoming a thing. And it was kind of tragic when she died. It was very, very sad. But it happens in the middle of the book. And because we're trying to jump to the next action scene, like right away, we don't really get time to mourn it. And I felt like the book needed to slow down just a little bit. You could have either cut some action scenes in there or just increase the length of the book. And neither of those two things happened. So for me, the pacing here just felt bad, but not bad in the fact that it dragged. It bad in the fact that we were just rushing. And I didn't think we needed to. So yeah, and I say that all to say that I really enjoyed the stuff here. Like, I enjoyed the action scenes a lot. Like, Murphy dying, it was the right call, and it worked really well. The end with the Titan, how they defeated the Titan, really, really worked, especially with Lara kicking out his eye. The reveal that Marcone, our organized crime head, is actually picked up a Fallen Angel coin. Very interesting. There's a lot of overarching stuff here. This is like almost, I would say, the equivalent of changes in terms of like setting up the future of the series here. It's like almost like a second restart. Just so good in terms of the implications and some of the fighting. And some of the choices were really good. I just wish the pacing was different. I'm going to put it right behind Summer Night. Okay, then we got 12 Months. This is basically just Ghost Story, but better. It's a better version of Ghost Story, like way better, basically in every single way. I'm going to put it ahead of Battleground, but behind Summer Night. It's a very good book. I can't give it great because, honestly, not much happens in this book. But the stuff that we do get, character-wise, I thought was very good. It's Harry dealing with his grief from Murphy's death and like all the bad stuff that happened in Chicago from the Titan attacking. And yeah, I thought it was done very well. This is almost what I wanted in Battleground, like just slow down the pace a little bit so we could feel it and mourn a little bit. And we get to see Harry mourn in this book for the entirety of the book. And I think at the end we come to a good spot where we learn that, healing is not instant. It's linear and it takes time. And I really love the theming of this book. It's one of the best themed books in the series. I love some of the character interactions in this book. I think Lara here was like a top-notch character. The more we learned about Molly here, again, just as the Winter Lady, she's really evolving. I think she's really working. Mab's head games in this book are still top-notch. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So I'm going to put it in very good. There's just not much plot here. There's not much plot advancement here. It's sort of setting up overarching things for the future. But in terms of like, is there a case to solve in this book? Not really, honestly. There's like 5 different cases that were given, but like Harry is kind of working on different ones at different points in the book. He isn't really. There's some of them are left sort of on cliffhangers, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that's that. But I think it does set up the future in a lot of way, and I really did enjoy reading this book a lot. Okay, let's get to the 2 short story collections. The first one is Side Jobs, and this contains short stories from book 1 through book 12. Changes. So you're supposed to read it, I think, after book 12. This one was just sort of I didn't enjoy it that much. I'm going to put it in the did not enjoy. I'm going to put it, ahead of Ghost Story, but behind Skin Game. There just wasn't much here that I liked reading. There was a story with Thomas, where he was the point of view character. I thought it was pretty good. And then the big story is, I think it's called Aftermath, and it's from Molly's point of view. Not Molly, Murphy's point of view. And I actually thought the plot of that was very good, and they explained some stuff. It introduced the Formor to us, and you learn about the Formor here, because when they come up in the regular series, you're like, what? Who are these people? And it's not really explained very well. But if you read this, it's explained a lot better. So I did enjoy that story, but it's also from Murphy's point of view, and I don't think Murphy's not one of my favorite characters, so whatever. Harry's not in that story, by the way. Then there were a couple other Harry stories that were just sort of fine, but nothing here like blew me away in terms of short stories. There wasn't one here that I actively liked that much. So yeah, and there were a lot here that I really wanted to skip. So yeah, I'm going to put did not enjoy. I did not enjoy the short story collection. But then there's Briefcases. Briefcases I thought was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed Briefcases. And I'm actually going to stick it right behind Peace Talks. For me, yeah, so there's a couple stories in here that I really liked. I liked the first story with Lucio, or Anastasia. I don't know which name the community usually calls her. Yeah, that was a great story. It was almost like a Western. Very, very good. I'm not a big Western guy either, but I really enjoyed that story. There was a story about the Cubs, the Chicago Cubs, and the curse, the Billy Goat curse. And I thought that was a very funny story, and it worked very, very well. And then there were the 2 Molly stories, Bombshells, and I forget the name of the second one. Both of them were awesome. One was a novella, Bombshells was a novella, and then the second one was post her becoming the Winter Lady. And I thought that story ruled. That's my favorite story of the bunch. The one after she becomes the Winter Lady. I thought that story was great. And if the book was just that story, I would be in the great tier for me. But it's not just that story. There's other stories in here. The 3 Bigfoot stories, all 3 of them did not land for me. There's a couple other stories in there that did not land for me. So I can't even put this in the very good. But I do think there's a collection of 4 or 5 in here that are either very good to great. And then there's a collection that I did not enjoy. So for me, it's going to land in good and near the top of good. I really enjoyed Briefcases. I do think it's worth reading. And then there's one more thing I want to talk about. It's just a short story that wasn't, published in either of the 2 short story collections, but you can read on his website. It's called Christmas Eve. It was actually included in the back of my copy of Battleground. Well, not my copy, my library's copy of Battleground. And yeah, this is my favorite short story of his, and I actually love this story. It's a heartwarming, cozy little urban fantasy story. There's no tension. There's no real plot. It's just Harry and his daughter celebrating Christmas Eve with the Carpenters. And yeah, I just really like that. There's a lot of good Christmas puns in here. I'm going to put this in the great tier. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the great tier, but yeah, this is a great story for me. I love this story. Very, very short too. It's only like 11 or so pages or something like that. Just an awesome story with some really great appearances by Kris Kringle and some really wonderful Christmas puns, and obviously Mab is in the story too. So yeah, just some great stuff. And that is my Dresden Files tier list. That is everything I've read in the Dresden Files so far. All the main books that have come out, the 2 short story collections, and 1 short story that's not included in other short stories collections. That is how I look at it. But remember, this is just my opinion. I'm not objectively saying this is the right list or anything. As a matter of fact, if you go back to my earlier comments, you'll see that I said people are going to enjoy these books wildly different because it depends really what you like. If you don't like Fae, you're not going to enjoy some of the books I love, but you may enjoy The Fallen Angels, so you may enjoy like Death Mask a lot more than I liked it. So yeah, there's stuff here that for everybody, it just depends what you like in terms of mythology and old stories. But let me know down below what your favorite Dresden Files books are. Let me know what I got wrong, what you vehemently disagree with. Let me know what you agree with. But as always, thanks for watching.